Diane in Denmark here, and welcome back to another in the Getting Things Done system together with the Flylady system. Now I think it's day 7, and this is just going to be a roundup of what it was all about, what we've done, and hopefully where we're going. So anyway, just sit back and relax. Let me just push you a wee bit back a bit. There we are, so we've got good space. So what is it we've done with the Getting Things Done system? Well, first of all, we're using it so that we are not carrying all that information in our heads the whole time. If I can give you an analogy, if you think about all the information that's in your brain, you're carrying that around, and it's like carrying around several bags, you know, and you don't need to be carrying lots of bags with you all the time. You know, you don't need to carry your sports bag with you if you're going to the grocery store, and you don't need to be carrying grocery bags and your sports bags if you're going out for the evening. All you need is your handbag. So all that we're trying to do is kind of untangle all those thoughts in our heads and put them into separate categories or bags, you know, handbag, sports bag, rucksack, school bag, so that when we need the information that's in those bags, we can take the bag and use it. Okay, so it's a bit of a weird analogy, but anyway, I hope you understood what I'm trying to get at. So on the first day, I asked you to just write down everything that was in your head, and you were just to write it down on an old scrap of paper, you know, back of an envelope, and anytime you had a thought, just write it down, whether it was buying food for your chickens, or booking your honeymoon for your wedding, or you know, getting car tires changed, whatever it was. So you were just getting it out of your head and down onto the paper. That was the first step of just getting everything, you know, brain dump, you know, the classic brain dump thing. And the brain dump thing works really well, you know, and keep the piece of paper beside, you know, your bed, when, you know, if you're waking up in the night with thoughts flying around. But it doesn't really get us anywhere. We've still kind of got that jumble of bags, you know, sports bag, handbag, rucksack. So on the second day, we took, you know, the Getting Things Done system, and what is the action step that you need to take on each of these creative ideas or worries or things that you have to do, projects. So we looked at that. So instead of just writing down, you know, when a thought pops into your head of, you know, buy chicken feed, maybe you have to go online to order it. So, you know, you had to put in what's the next step that's going to get that project moving, what's going to help it to move along. And then after that, now we're really beginning to see how the system works, and we're going to start actioning things. And in order to help us to action things, you know, it depends on the situation. You know, are you going to the sports club? Do you get your sports bag out? Or are you going out clubbing to dance? Do you get your little handbag out? And that's what we did, if you remember, let me just get mine, where we just took a piece of paper and we divided it into 4 sections. And it was things that you either do at home. Go back and look at the videos if you haven't seen this, and if you haven't actually done this process. I'll put the link up there. But things that you're doing at home, inside the home, when you're physically at home, that could be anything from changing light bulbs, you get my drift. Anything that you're doing outside the home, which would, in Flylady land, we call errand day. Remember, every day has a purpose. I'll put the link to that. I've made videos for each of, you know, Monday through Sunday, what the purpose of the day is. And then we had things that you need to discuss with somebody else before you can actually before you can take any action on that project. Maybe you need to speak to a significant other, or your boss, colleague, the kids, whatever it is. Somewhere where you have to, you know, talk to somebody else and discuss things. And the last one was, at least for me, things that you can do when you are kind of wasting time standing in the queue at the supermarket, or sitting on the train, or carpooling when you're going to work. Something that you can do on your smartphone, or if you're in Flylady land, using your office in a bag. So that's what we did with that. And we also of course, this is kind of a weekly list of things that you're kind of doing today and this week. And of course we have projects which will run on to next week, next month, next year, maybe in 5 years' time. You know, we had a wish list and we took another piece of paper for that. And, you know, we just got next week, next month, anything that's pending, you know, where you're waiting for people to come back to you. You know, you've thrown the ball into their half of the court and you're waiting for them to serve it back to you. And a wish list, because we all need to kind of wish about things, and it just kind of, you can put it there and just think about it, and you know, sometimes the wishes might happen because it's actually down there on a piece of paper. So that was that from now on. We are writing everything down that comes into our heads and we'll put it into one of those categories, and we are reviewing. That's the most important thing in the system. It's like the Flylady system. You can watch all my cleaning videos. You can watch all the 31 baby step videos, but unless you actually do something, nothing's going to change. Unless you actually review this list and take action, nothing's going to change. You're just going to have them out your head, but on lists which are going to start, you know, building up. And that's not the purpose here. We're just taking it in small chunks. And while I'm talking about that, I said yesterday about using the timer, and please use the timer before, you know, and set it for, say, 10 minutes or, you know, a reasonable amount of time if you're working on papers. You know, even allow yourself 30 minutes, because I know some of you, when we were going through emails yesterday, and it was fantastic. Thanks for all the comments and all the comments on Instagram, and you all, you know, are you know, deleting left, right and centre and have an empty inbox. But some of you didn't set the timer, and you know, you were in there for hours, and it was nice to get cleaned up, but that's not, you know, we're not doing things that way anymore. We're just spending a few minutes every day, or you know, when you're standing in the queue at the grocery store, you can whip out your telephone and unsubscribe from emails or delete some folders or whatever it is. So that was just about the timer. Please use your timer. You know, I use it, and I use the timer in these videos because I've got a life outside of these videos, and this keeps me on track. So, right, so we got ideas of our heads. What's the next action step that we need to take? Get it down on paper. So we know which compartment, which handbag, which school bag, which sports bag we need to take with us. And also, I talked about the 2-minute rule. You know, David Allen has this thing. If the action step takes less than 2 minutes to do, you know, if you can reply to that email, if you can delete the email, if you can unsubscribe from the email, do it now. You know, we've talked about that in Flylady. Do it now. Don't put it down and then pick it up again. Just put it away right now. So we talked about the 2-minute rule. That was that thing. And then on the next day, I was telling you about papers coming into the house. All the papers, you know, because we've got all these thoughts in our head, and then we've got all the papers coming into the house. And I've told you before, papers generally don't even get to come into my house, because when I take them out of the post box, we have recycling bins in our garden, you know, for paper. We've got metal, glass, plastic, general trash, and we have collections for electronics and garden refuse. Anyway, I stand at the bin, the recycling bin, and any you know, advertising things, we get very few these days because I've unsubscribed from all those, but anything that's kind of paper or envelopes, that goes straight in the paper recycling, and then I bring things into the house. If it's something that takes less than 2 minutes, if it's something that I just need to file away, I file it right there and then. So we're just trying to stop, you know, the flow of papers coming in. And what we're doing, if we already, I know you've got lots of papers, you know, I'm the same. I had tons of papers, bags of papers, boxes, files. We're just using the timer and working on these papers with the same principles, you know, putting them into different categories. And you can go back and look at the video, but you know, we're sorting them into, is it things that need to be filed? Is it something that needs to be discussed with your significant other? Is it something that needs to be actioned? Do you have to reply to the invitation? Do you have to buy the birthday present? You know, get it down on your list. And what was the other one? You know, and then, you know, recycling or shredding, whatever it is. So what I suggest is that you just spend 5 minutes, you know, going through papers, putting them into categories, and then just spend 5 minutes on, you know, filing, or 5 minutes on discussing with somebody else. Please use the timer, because, you know, we can get overwhelmed with the task, but then once we start, it actually feels quite good to finally get going, and then we spend too much time on it, and then we never want to do it again. So please use the timer. And then yesterday, it was the same principles, you know, we're using the same principles as Flylady, as getting things done, on emails. So anything that comes into your inbox, you know, I told you yesterday we're going to split it up into different groups. You're going to have, you know, something that, you know, to action this week or action today. Something that is pending. You will have a section for, you know, your dream category, you know, your wish list, so that every time you go into your inbox from now on, instead of kind of opening up the mail and then thinking, and then closing that mail again and thinking, I'll do that later. No, because later never comes. Do it now. So what you're going to do with every email that comes in is sit right there and then and think, can I unsubscribe from these emails? Do that right away. Can I delete the email? If it's, you know, something like a Flylady testimonial, just if it takes, you know, 2 minutes to read it and delete. You know, Flylady doesn't want you to keep all these emails, just keep deleting them. Or is it something that needs some action? Put it into your @action folder. Or is it something that needs to be dealt with perhaps next week? @later folder. Is it something where you are waiting to hear back again? You know, is it holding email? @pending folder. Or, you know, maybe it's an offer that comes in for some kind of flight, so you can put it into your @wish list folder. So that's what we're doing. From now on, all we're doing is just putting things into categories so that we know where to look, so that we're no longer kind of sitting there with all these papers and all these thoughts and all these emails. We know that if we've got 5 minutes and we're sitting with a cup of coffee, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and shred. And you know where your things are. And that's the wonderful, wonderful thing about both the Flylady system and the Getting Things Done system. We have tons and tons of ideas, information going on around us, but just by knowing where things are and knowing what the plan is, that really has been such a relief for me, because you know, if you're a fly baby like me, you know, we're very creative, spontaneous. You know, everything I write has an exclamation mark, because I'm always excited about things. I'm either really excited or I'm really down in the dumps. But just by knowing where everything is, that is a real comfort to me. I know where things are and I know what I have to do. And it's like, you know, today is Wednesday, and before I'd be like, oh, you know, what am I meant to be doing? It's anti-procrastination day. I've got some tasks that I need to do, and here's, I was going to tell you about this last week. One of my anti-procrastination tasks, it was a while ago, I can't remember when, was to order some new bracelets, plastic bracelets for my Fitbit. It's a Flex 2 for everybody who's asked. And, you know, it comes with a black bracelet, and, you know, I kind of like to, now I need to make sure I've got it the right way up. I like to make sure that I'm kind of matchy. So I ordered some really cheap bracelets, and so now I've got one in red when I've got my red stuff on, and grey when I've got... So anyway, if you've got some anti-procrastination tasks, you know, write those down. What's the next thing that you have to do? Is that a phone call to the dentist? Oh, nobody wants to do that. How are you going to move it forward? Okay, so just set your timer. Set it for just a couple of minutes if it's a really scary thing, or 5 minutes, and deal with it. And that's all we're going to do. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I've got to get some things done today. I may revisit this little series later, but let me know how you're getting on. I know you had fantastic fun deleting all the emails. It's a really good feeling when you can go into your inbox and just see like 3 or 4 that have come in today. So anyway, that's it for me. Diane in Denmark, very dark here, but I've got the candles going, and I'm heading out for my swim soon. So see you very soon. Live long and prosper.